Hey, Amanda.
Hey Keith, how's it going?
Not too bad. That introduction there didn't give you much credit. It just said Keith Tyner. You're more valuable to this thing than me.
Yeah, but you're the one that's on the road. I can tell
Ah,
from your backdrop. I'm clearly in the comfort of my own home.
yeah, yeah, but that's all right. This would be kind of boring me just talking to me. So you are
Did you see
valuable.
that? Thank you. Did you see that first disclaimer on there, just in case? I know you're parked. Thank you for being safe. But while you do drive, always drive on the road and not on people.
I like that. I like that. Wheels down. That's the deal. You don't want like what's
Right
that
on.
Jeep bumper sticker? If the wheels are up, if you can read. Oh, that's what it says. If you can read this, flip me over, kind of thing. So,
Well, I know that your last road trip, you were only driving on the road and not over people, as far as I know.
um, I normally, if I have a rental car, I will get off the road sometimes because it's a rental, and
Okay.
I did get off the road. Um, there was a trip to Amarillo, Texas, in the rental car, and the slope out of the parking lot was too high, like it wasn't a normal gradual one, and I wasn't paying attention, and I went about 20 miles off that thing, and it just the front end of the rental car just bottomed out.
Oh,
All the kids, everybody's shaking, and they were trash talking me. And on this trip, we were in um, Bismarck, North Dakota, and we figured we ought to know what Bismarck is about, so we were going downtown, and there was a divot in the road in downtown Bismarck that had the same effect with the rental car. And we had a cooler in the back. When I hit that thing, the whole car shook up and down. And when my first response was, "Did I spill the cooler?" And they all started screaming, "What about us? Did we hit our head on the road?" And so
priority,
I
priority.
mostly kept it. Yeah, I mostly kept it on the road. So that was a good trip. Hey,
That's
have
awesome.
you ever traveled to a distant location and then had a span of time and then visited it back again? Have you ever gone someplace like that?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind, this goes to show how much traveling I do, but every year during the summer, my parents have a house out at a lake house that is a distant 1 hour away. And
Okay.
I will tell you that I do go about 9 months without seeing things out there. And so when I do make that drive out there, I shoot right off of 36, and there's usually a lot of changes that have occurred either on 36, and then even when we take our first trip around the lake to see what changes have been made to new homes, just the money people are putting in there and the investments people are making. So I can't say I've been to on a road trip to Bismarck, North Dakota, and taken the same route and seen how that has changed between like a 10-year span. But
Yeah, that's one of the things that travel does. It affords you the opportunity to observe change, and it's usually pretty clear if you go to the same place twice. Like I've been to Yellowstone a number of times, and the first time I drove a RV through there, there was only about that much room from my perception to the till you're off the road and maybe into a big mess. And like on this trip, I didn't have an RV. I was in a rental car, but I noticed that they probably had this much room, which I was thinking,
okay,
boy, I would feel real comfortable driving the RV out here now because they've made the roads wider and they're more just it's friendlier driving out there. But that's one of the things I think for travel, and you realize is that change is happening all the time in places I never thought about it. I'm sitting here where there used to be a railroad track behind me, and so there used to be the constant sound of the fare train going through here, and now it's a jogging trail and all kinds of things, and that disrupted some of the people here in Fishers, Indiana, that some of them wanted the railroad there, but there was no commerce for the railroad to go there, so there's no reason to go there, and so that
right.
change that happened stressed some people out. and it energized other people. And so who knows, 100 years from now, maybe this won't be a running trail, maybe a railroad track again, who knows. And so that's the observations I see when I'm on the road, or things that are changing. And um, I just know that change can be really annoying. Like, I have to change all the time in business to be relevant to the technologies that's out there. And it's hard for me to describe to you the magnitude of the changes in the technologies over my career. But when I learned computer programming in college, we had a piece of paper about this big, a little smaller than this, that we would put in the machine, and it would tell stuff to do that a single click on your phone does now, right? And so to see that evolution in technology forces me to stay alert and adapt to the change, or I could just get grumpier about it. But that's not a real good choice. But change is it. It's just what happens. And so on this trip, as I considered the changes that are around me, like right now I have 2 masks with me, 3 masks in the car with me. Everywhere I went, last time I was there were no masks, right? Like, masks, if I told those people, next year when I come here, you're going to be wearing masks, they would have called the special people to take me away, right? Nobody would have believed that. And that's dramatic change in a short period of time. And I don't like putting this thing on, but I've learned to adapt that I'll wear this thing when it's necessary. And so that was part. The masks were, when we were on the road, they were elevating the frequency of where masks were at that point in time. Another thing I observed was that billboards that normally advertise products must not have, as things had shifted and people maybe were kind of tightening their belts, a lot of the billboards had moral messages on it this time, which was really peculiar to me, that others were paying money to assert their morality on me, which that's different. And I hadn't really noticed it. I mean, there were enough billboards like that, it was noticeable. And so that was a pretty peculiar change. I mean, this one's horrible, but this is one of the changes that's revolutionized my life, is that we drove by a really, really bad automobile accident on a 2-lane road that had shut down traffic for miles, and there were fatalities. And one of the conversations we had as a family is that this change right here that happened, there are families right now that don't know what we know, and their world is about to dramatically change. Like, within a period of time, that change is going to hit them. It's going to cause grieving and pain. And if they don't adapt to that, it'll create bitterness. And we went through a really bad accident like that, where it took a real close loved one from us. And we observed how some people became bitter versus adapting and trusting that God maybe has a better plan through that situation. So the changes that can happen out there are pretty dramatic. We noticed, I can't remember if I mentioned this in one of our other ones, that the prevalence of windmills, like there used to be hundreds of windmills when I traveled. Now it's thousands of windmills, like thousands and thousands. And I'm not sure what I think about that. I like a more natural horizon when I'm driving, and they're not a very natural horizon. Oh. Do you have an opinion? Do you have an opinion on your views with the windmills in the horizon?
I can only say I've really only been up to Chicago where I've seen them, and yeah, there's even more on 65 than I had seen previously. Before then, I think in like Palm Springs, the very first time I experienced those, and I was 5 years old maybe. At least those were on a nice hill or a mountainside. But yeah, I would agree with you. I like a different horizon than those.
We came back out of Colorado on I think it was State Highway 34. I might have that wrong. It was a very pleasant drive, but maybe the windmill organizations haven't convinced the farmers that are on the state roads to put the windmills there yet. I don't know. I haven't driven a lot of. That was like 5 hours on the state road, but most of the interstates we were on, we saw thousands of windmills. So that change is nobody asked my opinion about that change, and so that's how most of life's changes are, right? Like, and we live in a
What are
time
your
where,
opinions about that change?
yeah, it doesn't really matter. It just happens, so I have to adapt, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
And that,
Did you see those in every state?
I'd have to go back and think through that, but I'd be surprised if the answer wasn't yes. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I remember them in most states. I can't for sure. I don't know if we came through Iowa. I'm pretty sure I saw them there. So maybe Nebraska. I bet Nebraska had them too. So the answer is probably yes. So that's probably 6 or 7 states we saw them in. But yeah, and I think that like we're traveling through a time right now that our country is divided and everybody's got opinions on a lot of different things, and our freedom has allotted us the opportunity to think that my opinion is my right to be right. And the fact is that once elections happen or leaders make decisions, my opinion is pretty well muted, other than if I want to annoy other people that may or may not agree with me. I try to not worry about those things too much, because when people vote with their money or with their ballot, it's not really, there's not much more I can do besides that. Like, there's a brand new building sitting in front of me right now, and I could have bought that land and put whatever I wanted, but I didn't. Somebody else bought the land, and that was their opinion of what should be there. So that change happened, and nobody asked my opinion, right? So,
and you just adapted. You're not driving. There's something new to look at, or there's a new obstacle to go around. You're
whether
just
I like it. Yeah, whether I like the way it looks or not, it doesn't really matter. It just is. And so that's part of traveling, is you realize that things are changing. The trees are getting bigger, the trees are dying, the national parks are adapting and changing. Like the national parks probably are much more crowded than they were when I was younger, but they've actually made the roads wider, so they've made some allotments for those sorts of things. And so one of the cool changes I noticed was the road between Bozeman, Arizona, and the west entrance of Yellowstone, West Yellowstone. We hit this traffic, and one of the 2 lanes was shut down, and they had these trucks consecutively lined up, and they were almost bumper to bumper. And the front truck, I think it was probably the front truck. If it wasn't the front truck, it was really close to the front. It was grinding up the asphalt. You've been on one of those roads where the asphalt's been ground up, and yeah. So that's what the front truck was doing, and the trucks in between. It was almost like a train. They were that close together, and the back truck was laying down new asphalt. And so they were going down the road like this. And we were on that road twice in about a 3-day period of time. And in 3 days, they had repaved at least 10 miles of the road.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive change right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I've seen places around town where they can't. Yeah, the places around town, they can't pave it in a month, like maybe a half mile. So see, 10 miles in 3 days is pretty impressive. So yeah, I think the idea that change is out there becomes really apparent when you're on the road. And I think as I get older, what I need to remind myself is I need to learn to adapt to change, not to look back and say, I wish it was how it was, because we don't need black and white TVs anymore like when I was a kid, right?
That's right. We were past those days.
Yeah, don't need rabbit ear antennas on them or anything. And so if I had clung to that, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. And so the changes that happen are going to happen whether I like them or not. And to really learn to adapt is, I think, one of the keys in traveling life that can keep you younger. And so I'd encourage everybody that's got a minute to look at this and think about change, that everybody just breathe in and breathe out, that the changes around them are happening, and you can make the investments of your boat or your money to change them how you desire. But most things in life, people don't ask my opinion, and those changes, they may upset me for about a minute, but then I'm on to the next thing. So I'd say enjoy the road. The road and the adventure is much greater than the destination. So that's what I know today, Amanda.
Thanks, Keith, and enjoy the change while we're at it.
All right.
As hard as that is sometimes.
I'll see you real soon. Okay.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Yeah.